most financial regulations came out from each jurisdictions or on their own. Sometimes it's in response to a global financial crisis, for example, like the GFCs back in 2007, 2008. Sometimes it's very local driven or a specific topic that have come out. So the real problem is regulators always wants to protect their own backyard. And when they issue a piece of regulations that protect their backyard, and with financial systems around the world are fairly integrated together, there will invariably be knock-on effects across borders and the like. So that starts to create problem because your regulation typically only governs your country or your jurisdiction. Not all regulation have got extraterritorial reach, and therefore you stop just at your border. But when you're trying to go above it or around it or outside of it, or people trying to do things into your jurisdiction, and that's where it gets a little bit trickier. So the inconsistency of when, how, why regulation is put in place is actually causing some problem, but it's not something that you can prevent it, because regulators in each country or each jurisdiction exist because its primary role is to protect the investors and the consumers in that jurisdiction. RegTech basically is the use of technology to solve regulatory problems. There are few elements of RegTech that is essential, which will be scalability, flexibility, speed, and cost effectiveness. Whether or not RegTech is solving the world's problem is also whether who's using it, who's pushing for it, and whether what solutions are available out there. Because within RegTech itself, there are quite a number of verticals of problem areas that you can apply technology to it. So like, for example, anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, identity, KYC area, that's one vertical. Now then there are verticals like your fraud detection, transaction monitoring, and then you have your things like risk management, your processes within, let's say, an organization. What are your compliance processes in approving various requests? So that's actually a process automation verticals, which is also a RegTech function. Now then another vertical will be, how do you digitize all the entire library of all your regulations? Because right now, today, all regulations potentially are probably on the web. It's on PDF versions. You can find it in regulators' website, but they're not amalgamated together in a way that is easily searchable, easily contextualized. So that was one area as well. So different verticals form the overall RegTech solution. Now, is there one RegTech solution that basically does everything? Unfortunately, no. A lot of the cost of compliance is directly or indirectly a result of misconduct. And misconduct is human knowingly going into a business deal because of financial gains. So if you think about that, you got banks being fined, being penalized, being sanctioned, and the likes. These are costs of compliance. A lot of times, the breaches or the issue that have occurred is not because of lack of technology, right? Because if you think of RegTech being a technology solution trying to solve a regulatory problem, then if it's an intentional misconduct or a senior management connivance of certain behavior because of profit, because of the big clients that you want to bring in, and then you want to override certain limitations that maybe the compliance department or the risk department have flagged out, then that's not a technology solution at all. That's actually a behavioral and conduct issue. So with that, it means that you don't just say, oh, RegTech is the savior to reduce costs. It's not going to do that. If you continuously want to, or the people in the organization continuously behave in a certain manner, and the KPIs is driven in that fashion, you don't just throw technology and say that, oh, this problem is going to go away, because it's not. Because as much as the technology can be smart enough to detect it, it's not a question of detection anymore, because it's a question of how do you even prevent it, right? Because if business is coming in to say, let's just do it, let's just go to this politically exposed person and let's just do the deal with him or her or them, it's not that you didn't detect it, it's you want to go into it. And you recognize the risk, right? So, which is why I think for regulatory purposes or compliance purposes, I think it is very important for whether you're a big bank or whether you're a small financial institution, or as long as you're regulated in this space, you're providing some kind of financial services. The key to compliance is really the ownership of risk and the ownership of compliance function. Who owns risk? It's not the compliance head that you hire. It's not the auditor that you engage. It's actually the business, because business owns the risk. Because you're in the business because you want to take risk. And regulatory risk, unfortunately, is part of the risk that you need to manage. You can't just fault accountability to someone else.